I'll cast away the women in my world for this moment. Well, I think the industry is attracting a lot of outside capital finally by getting themselves positioned as one of the climate solutions. And we're seeing now generations of actual biochar creating machines where biochar is the product, not a byproduct or a waste product. And that's very promising because that's going to create a suite of devices that can be positioned in much more distributed applications like on larger farms or even smaller farms. The legacy fly ash power plant materials are very good, but they're limited. You're not going to build more power plants to have more fly ash, what's called high carbon wood ash. So we need to move into devices that prioritize the properties and performance of biochar and make that product for what its value is.
Yeah, so this is my third biochar conference. The first one I was at Morgantown, West Virginia, and it's really the premier event I look forward to going to every year. As the general manager of biochar at Mangrove, we spend a lot of time thinking about biochar, what the next generation of biochar developers look like, so we can support them with our software and our digital monitoring, reporting, and verification services. What is DMRV? It's such a good question. So the D is for digital. The concept of MRV has been around for a long time and stands for measuring, monitoring, reporting, and verification. So it's basically the digitization of measuring, reporting, and verification for carbon removal projects. So what that looks like is taking a project's operational value chain all the way from their feedstock sourcing down to their biochar application, understanding how data flows out of their operations, and then collecting that through either automated systems, QR codes, AI opportunities. We then take that data because it needs to be reported to a registry, such as Pure or Isometric. We package all of the data and perform quantification modeling, or basically a dynamic life cycle assessment that takes the methodology of choice and applies the appropriate emissions factors and formulas to get your net tons CO2e sequestration. And then finally, that needs to get verified by a third-party auditor. And so we send that data directly to your registry and verification body, where they then look at it, do an on-site application or audit, and ultimately put the stamp of approval where you get carbon removal credit issuance for your biochar production. DMRV is really important because it increases the transparency in the story that you're telling. So every time you produce a carbon removal credit, there's a narrative behind what you're doing, which is the service of removing carbon. So by having DMRV, you're able to tell a more transparent and full story around what you're actually doing to remove that carbon in a sustainable manner.
I wish that they knew there were or are funding opportunities, grants for biochar projects. The most common mistakes are applying when they aren't eligible or missing something in the application. It does take a lot of time, more time than people realize, to apply. You just have to be slow, methodical, make sure you read all the information and requirements before you apply.
Every year I come, the conference is bigger, and that's just the most exciting part. Seeing more people coming into the space. You know, we're finally talking about things like fleet management and software automation. So that to me signals that the industry's growing. The biggest cost in biochar, aside from just the production, is the transportation, because you have to move your feedstock to the pyrolyzer. It's very bulky. And then you have to move your biochar out to the farm. And we have a saying that the only people getting rich in biochar today are the trucking companies, and it's true. And so I think that the need is really a solution where you can produce biochar locally in an agricultural region using the biomass that's available locally. That's the key. The biggest challenge is technology. There are not really commercial off-the-shelf pyrolyzers that can work with these feedstocks and produce a high-quality biochar. Most of the off-the-shelf systems really are optimized for higher value wood chip feedstock. So the biggest obstacle is really technological. The second one is just educating the agricultural market about biochar and getting them interested in biochar.
So I think there's always been three gaps. It's been technology for the large-scale production of biochar. It's been the market development to actually be able to sell the biochar into, and it's been the ability to finance biochar projects. I think the technology has come a really long way. I know a lot of the stuff we've done, and I know we're not the only ones who have made incredible progress on that. I think it's largely a solved issue. There's quite a bit of market development work that a lot of people are doing behind the scenes. Quite a bit of focus on don't just sell biochar, sell a product that incorporates biochar, you're solving a problem. Biochar is an ingredient to it. And there's quite a bit of interest in financing moving into the space, especially in a world where solar and wind tax credits have expiration dates, and there's lots of people looking to move into that. There's paper mills closing down, and there's a need to move all these wood chips. There's a data center popping up in everyone's backyard that needs huge power so we can build the machine gods. The incentives are aligned for financing to move more and more into the space, and from what we've seen, there's a lot of progress there. So I think these are problems that are being solved. It's just a question of timing. Obviously, my job is to make it move quicker, which I am certainly working my hardest at.
We did a session on maximizing value of your carbon credits for biochar projects, and specifically looked at how to maximize the value from co-benefits and sustainable development goals, which are all of the benefits outside of the carbon removal potential of the project. The biggest takeaway was that, one, co-benefits can really differentiate a project and move the needle to transact credits. Two, to actually claim those benefits, project developers have to track everything, the baseline, what they did. And that three, it's like, keep an open mind. There's a lot of different co-benefits around wildfire mitigation and job creation, and so it's important to really be open-minded about that as you're presenting your project. I am really hopeful that there will be continued growth in the biochar end-use markets. So it'll be very clear what specifications biochar producers need to meet to sell into fertilizer and to sell into other ag inputs to produce biochar that generates benefits for the industry. And then that will really enable successful businesses to grow and scale.
Well, we have an innovator that's kind of a prolific innovator that we have a connection to, and he's biochar is his thing right now, and he's like, hey, I had a great idea about how to use biochar, and so we just start talking about it, and somebody says, yeah, we'll put some budget to it and go whale away at it. Our first shot at that turned into this, we call it Char 21 SW. That turned out good. So you got some confidence. The next crazy idea seems reasonable. Nobody's doing it. Give it a shot. Oh, yeah. So listen, making using biochar by the trainload is on the way. Maybe not in 2 years. But, we're getting ready to jump the gap, I think, for biochar.